What's up, guys? So today I'm just sharing my latest find as far as knife books go. I was very pleased to see this. Actually, it was a suggestion by my wife. I'm always looking for knife books at like garage sales and church sales and stuff. And there's one particular book, this one, that I saw in an antique place that I really wanted. And I'll tell you the story in a moment. But my wife had suggested that I just look online at some bookstores and stuff. And one bookstore that she likes is Thrift Books. Right, you can see this has a catalog number from Thrift Books. And I found it on there. And the price was significantly less than what the antique shop wanted. Now this is Bernard Levine's Guide to Knives and Their Values, the second edition. There are multiple editions. I have the fourth edition. I got that many years ago. It was actually the first knife book I ever bought. I went to Country Knives down in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was a family trip to go see the Amish country, make homemade pretzels and drink flat root beer and just enjoy the history of the Amish. So while I was there, obviously being a huge knife buff and a teenager who was super excited, which I'm still excited about knives just as much today. But back then I was like basically peeing my pants, can't wait to go to this knife store. Because at that point I'd never been to a knife shop that I can walk in and see knives. And Country Knives was like pretty much a museum. There's got to be hundreds of thousands of knives in that place. If you're ever in the Lancaster area, I believe they're still open. I will say that their prices are pretty much museum grade prices. I remember looking around the store, even back then when I was a kid, and thinking like, it's seriously like a kid in a candy shop. I mean, there's every knife you could think of. It's ridiculous. You could spend hours and hours looking around at these knives. But I also remember them being like, in some cases, a little bit more than MSRP. Maybe things have changed over the years, but I ended up leaving that store without a knife, but I did get a Bernard Levine Guide to Knife book, like I said, the fourth edition, and I also got the Benchmade knife case, the attaché, that kind of, it folds in half. It's like a padded case for knives, which I still have today. I still use it all the time. So yeah, that's what got me into reading knife books and learning more about the hobby. This happens to be a price guide, but there's so much information in these books. It's crazy. I learned all kinds of stuff. Just very fascinating to me. So long story short, well, it's too late for that. I might as well give you the long story, right? You gotta know where to go. You can always pause the video and watch it later if you want. So there's an antique shop that's somewhere close to me. And I've been going to the same antique shop with Christina for probably, I don't know, 3-4 years. I've known about it for many years, probably 10 or 15 years. But they have a good variety of stuff. It's actually, I think, consignment. So it's a big place, but different sections in there are owned by different people. So when I go there, I always look at the books. I look at everything, because you guys know I have a million interests. So I'm looking at the silver stuff. I'm looking at pens and knives and books and, old cards, all kinds of stuff, In fact, for me, even if I don't buy anything, it's just a nice day out, to go antiquing, just to look at stuff. But anyway, their book section had 2 copies of the Bernard Levine Guide to Knives and Their Values. The 4th edition, which I already own, and this one, the 2nd edition. Now, when I open the cover, their price, which you don't see here, obviously this is a different book, but their price is $50. Now, $50 is actually not crazy. These books can fetch over $100. They can get $200, $300. Just depends on who you are and how bad you want it, really. But older books, specifically books like this, they do fetch a higher price tag usually. Especially if people know, like if you're in the knife community and you happen to have knife books and you're selling to other guys in the knife community, yeah, those prices are going to be a lot higher. Or if you happen to just be a collector of books. So yeah, I didn't want to pay $50 for it. Every time I went in there, and it must have been at least 5 or 6 different times over the years, I went and looked at the same book and picked it up every time to see if it was still there. Oh, it's still here. Oh, it's still $50. I always want it. And the last time we went, Christina's like, why don't you just look online for it? I'm like, you know what, yeah. Because I have looked before. I have looked on eBay, as well as some other bookshops, but I didn't know about Thrift Books. Apparently it's one of the bigger ones. I just didn't know about it. Anyway, she found it on there. She looked it up for me for, I want to say it was like, I don't know, $16, something like that. It was less than 20 bucks. It was less than the retail price back in the 80s when this was available at $21.99. So this one's actually in pretty fair condition. There's a little bit of, ripping on the front there. Means nothing. All the information's here. There's no missing pages. All right, the inside was basically intact. It's just got a little roughed up from maybe handling or storage or something. So this one, the 2nd edition, is from, I want to say 1985. We got Roman numerals here. This is MCM LXXXV is 1985, and it's showing 1984. So I'm assuming it's the later year, so this would be from 1985. Obviously, as each edition came out, there was little tweaks here and there. Some information was taken away, some information was added. So for me, it's interesting. I mean, eventually I'd like to have the whole collection. Bernard Levine is a genius when it comes to knives. And, you know, back in the day, I used to always talk to him through knife forums, knifeforums.com. I don't even think knife forums exist anymore. The other day I went to go look for it and there was some error or something. So maybe that's not even a forum anymore. Blade forums obviously was always the biggest, but knife forums where I got my roots. That was the first place on the internet I started talking about knives to people and learning stuff. But he had his own little section there, and you can ask him like anything old, he just know it. He was like a walking encyclopedia of antique knife knowledge. It was amazing. Really, really accomplished man. I believe he writes all kinds of stuff besides knife stuff. But anyway, these are just awesome reference books. So number one, I'm just showing off the book in case you're interested in old knives and stuff. And you might want to get something like this for yourself, particularly if you collect them, because obviously it's a value book. There's all kinds of references for values, so you have an idea as far as purchasing and selling and so forth, even trading. But also to tell you about thrift books, because I didn't know about the site, and now that I do, I'm creating more competition by telling you all this, because I'm going to check it every now and again to see, if different books that I want are there cheaper. I know right now I'm looking for Victorinox has a couple books. One's a guidebook, and I'm really interested in that one. But yeah, I just want to kind of spread the word here. It's really fascinating. There's a lot of old stuff, like, for example, I happen to pick to something. I happen to flip right to a modern page. There's a Spyderco Police. You can see back then in 1985, the value was $80. Obviously, it has a little bit more value now. So keep that in mind, too. This was written in 1985. The values have certainly gone up on some things. Generally speaking, values don't really go down, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess, but it's a nice reference. But what I was going to say is most of the book is this. Most of the book are old slip joints and stuff, all right? They do obviously touch upon stuff. What's interesting with this one particularly is that obviously it shows models from the 80s, all right? Which is cool because I've had some of them before. So flipping through and seeing something like that, like a Spyderco Police, I'm like, yeah, that's a cool knife. I love it. But it is more of a reference for antique knives. Antique technically is over 100 years, but vintage I think is technically over 50 years. So let's say that, mostly vintage knives. But it's just really, really fascinating. That old slip joint that you find in a garage sale, it could be worth $1. It could be worth $100,000. You just don't know. So if nothing else at all, it's great reading material. If you're sitting on the crapper and you want to take a break from staring at your phone and playing games and, looking on Instagram and stuff, it's just nice every now and again to, well, maybe you wouldn't want to bring this on the crapper. Well, unless, I don't know, you run out of paper. There's plenty here. But it's just a cool reference. I love books that are pertaining to my hobbies. I absolutely love reading books and learning things. I don't generally read a lot of storybooks. I have lately. There's a couple random ones just because of something else, which I'm not going to get into now. A different subject, and I happen to pick up on an author, and I was reading one of his books. But I like books that are just packed with knowledge. I like learning things. But obviously, it has to pertain to my hobbies. I'm not going to grab a random book about crocheting and find that interesting because I don't really care about crocheting. But give me a book about knives, forget it. I'm on it. I'm on it like white on rice. I'm all over the thing. I love soaking up the information. And as much as I know about knives, there's so much more to learn. Anyway, let me know down below, do you guys collect knife books? Part of me collects them. It's just nice to have a big library of knife books, and I do reference them all the time. Someone might ask me a random question like, oh, do you know what this knife is? And I'm like, I've seen that knife before. And instead of hopping online and searching, I grab my books, and I'm like, I know I've seen it in this book. And then sometimes I'll find it, sometimes I won't. I'll, Google it or whatever. But yeah, it's just really, really cool reference books, but I do actually like collecting them. It's a separate hobby, is collecting books about my hobbies, which is a hobby about books, about hobbies, and kind of this weird wormhole of collectibles. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. But yeah, let me know down in the comment sections. Do you guys have knife books? Do you reference them? Do you read them? I know people get into old knife magazines. That's very cool as well. To break out an issue of like Knives Illustrated circa 1998 or something and flip through it and be like, oh yeah, I've had that knife, or oh, I saw that knife. It's really fun. I know there's so many people getting into knives now, 2019. And for me, I got 30 plus years of knives, 30 plus years of seeing hundreds, if not thousands of knives. So there's a lot I recognize, but even so, there's millions of knives. So there's tons I've never seen before. And it's always fun and always exciting to see new ones. So again, getting a book like this, it just serves a lot of different purposes for me. So very happy to get a deal, older edition. I think the first edition was more of a pamphlet. I could be wrong, but I think I've seen it before, and it's not like this big fat book. A lot of these older ones were huge, just chock full of information. So anyway, that is it. Shout out to the wife for hooking it up with some some suggestions and saving us money, because it benefited her as well. For under 20 bucks, I am more than excited about this book, and I'll be reading this for the next, I don't know, week or so. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.